Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Adventures Travel Club. I can't even say it, but Travel Club television show. Betty and I are both having a little problems today. We're trying to get over the flu, and so I don't know if the brain is not engaged or the tongue is not engaged. One of the two.
Well, they're probably a combination of both. I know I'm laughing when I hear myself talk because I always talk badly anyway with that scratchy voice of mine, but now it's twice as bad.
Well, we'll bear with ourselves today, and we are joining the show as we go back to Auschwitz, which is, of course, located in Poland. And Auschwitz, for those of you who are familiar with, we don't have to say anything about it. For those of you who don't know anything about the Second World War and Auschwitz was, of course, an extermination camp that the Nazis had as they occupied Poland. And this was one of the biggest killing camps that they had. There were over 1 million, I believe 700,000 people that were exterminated here in this camp. And mainly, of course, these were Jews from all over Europe. They were also gypsies. They were also intelligent people that the Nazis wanted to get rid of. This little shrine that we see right here are actually some of the ashes that were found when the camp was liberated by the Russians World War II, at the end of World War II, of course. And so this was made as a monument here inside of Auschwitz. We're going to listen to our guide.
This motive that you see in front of you, it shows one of those two biggest crematorium and gas chambers. You can see what happened to 80–90% of each transport of Jewish people deported to Birkenau. They were told to go to the first underground chamber, which was a dressing room. They were told to strip before having a shower, as they were told. They were told to hang the clothes on hooks with numbers to find later on. They were told to tie the shoelaces to find the shoes. Well, of course, sometimes it didn't look so peaceful because sometimes these people really suspected the worst, and then SS men were shouting at them and beating them.
This is a model of one of the gas chambers, in fact, one of the largest ones, that was actually located about 6 kilometers from where we are right now in Auschwitz. And they were able to bring in literally trainloads of people, and they marched them in, said that they were going to take a shower, told them to tie their shoes together, to hang their clothes up on a numbered hook. So a lot of people believe that's what they were going to do, was to be able to take a shower. However, some of them knew what was happening, and they were crowded 2,000 into the gas chamber. And when they first started using the gas, and we'll see some of the canisters after a bit, in these chambers, they didn't know exactly how much of it to use. And so they were actually doing experimentations with a lot of these people. In fact, the experimentation, however, was done not in the bigger killing camp that we see the model of here, but actually in Auschwitz #1, in one of the areas where we are actually going to be standing, that they used as their experimental death chamber, as it were.
Can you believe, excuse me, Marv, that this is actually a reality? You're not just watching something that somebody has written up for some television show to be sort of a shocker. This is reality that you're looking at.
And this is a horrible reality. And, it's good that we are able to see this and be able to visit this because, history can repeat itself. In fact, it's doing it, unfortunately, already now in some other countries. These are the spent cans of gas.
Was that cyanide? Do you remember?
No,
I don't remember what they said.
There was another name for it, but I think they also use cyanide as well. There was another name for this, which she probably mentions a little bit later on.
It came down from the ceiling, did it? Yeah.
And those people that were closest to the gas probably expired right away, while others probably were in agony for some time. But you just can't realize until you see something like this that much evil actually existed, and probably still exists in many parts of the world today, because there are killings that are going on, maybe not systematically like this, but randomly that are happening all over the world as well. And so it's good that that the people made this into a museum and, of course, a monument to over close to almost 2 million people that were exterminated here. It's something that you can't fathom when you go there, and yet you do realize that that this did happen. You read about it, and a lot of people lived through this. So
I've been of the opinion since we've been there and since we've done the show that it would be wonderful for history teachers to tape this for classes.
Yeah.
And Auschwitz was the German translation of the name of Polish town Auschwitz. So before the war, this town had very well developed railway station, good connections with Vienna, Budapest, Krakow. All these pragmatic reasons were, this is it. As I said, 42. Huge deportations of Jewish people from the southern part of Poland, Slovakia also. But later, Greece came, Italy, France, Belgium, Holland, Austria, Germany, and Hungary. In 1944, there was one of the most tragic periods in the history of this camp. 2 months and a half, just 2 months and a half. During this period, they managed to deport more than 400,000 Hungarian Jews, and majority of them were killed immediately. To kill them quicker and more efficient, they decided to build the platform into the camp in Birkenau. Before they were using another platform that was in between Auschwitz I and Auschwitz II, but they had to take the people by lorries, they needed guards, etc. So they decided, no, it's not good. It's better to make a station inside the camp. So from the moment that the trains arrived at the camp till the moment they managed to murder 90% of the transport, sometimes it didn't take an hour even. They were Hungarian Jews. You can see them after selection, because when transport arrived at the station inside the camp, at the platform, these people were told to get off the trains. They were told to take everything they got with them, but to leave it on the platform. They were assured that later on, after having a shower, they were told that they would be taken to the bathroom, that after having a shower, they would be given everything back, but of course it was a lie. Only 10%, sometimes 20%, sometimes less, sometimes no one, were selected from the transport as fit for work. Everybody else was selected to go to the gas chamber, to the bathroom, as they were told. So no one of them ever saw anything they brought with them. As you see, Auschwitz was, the complex of Auschwitz camps was not only the concentration camp, but it was also a huge robbery center. They were robbing everything, people's property, people's labor, and they were not even utilizing the bodies of people.
And after the people were gassed, then of course their hair was saved, and of course they went in and pulled out the gold teeth too. And oftentimes this had to be done, of course, by other inmates, and sometimes they were doing this to members of their own family. You can see here just a lot of things that were found, of course, after the liberation of the camps, but mountains of shoes and all these personal belongings that were here. And it just makes your stomach turn when you take a look at all of this and see that this is real. I mean, this is the real stuff. And then to think what they did to the children, and we're going to find out about that next.
These photographs were taken by the camp administration. When the new prisoner was registered, they took him to the atelier and they took photographs just for register. But they did it only until the year 43. In 43 they stopped doing it because too many started to come, and too many Jews started to come, and maybe they didn't want to register this way Jewish people. That's why majority of the faces that you will see, they are Polish, because it was during this first period. Later on, as I said, they started to tattoo and right here, or here. Auschwitz was the only camp in which it was obligatory. So if by any chance you meet a person with a number, he or she must have been a prisoner of Auschwitz camp. Dishwan, Birkenau, Monowitz, or any of other sub-camps belonging to the complex of Auschwitz camps. So let's go to see the exhibition that is devoted. C letter stands for Czech, right? And this boy was from Russia. There were deportations from White Russia. Women, children, families of partisans were deported to Auschwitz. All the other children are Polish. We know stories of some of them. For example, this girl, her name was Czesława Kota, and she was deported together with her mother. We know it because we have documents issued by the camp administration of them. They were both deported from Zamość region. Zamość region is now in the east of Poland, on the eastern wall of Poland. But during the war it was just in the center. And it is very fertile region. There are plenty of nice villages there before the war. So Nazis wanted to settle their own people there, their own peasants. So what to do with Polish? Murder them, the simplest way. And they planned to do it in 1943. They planned to murder 300,000 Polish peasants just because they wanted their land. And they started deportations to Auschwitz. They deported 13,000 of people from Zamość region. For some reason they stopped doing it. But this girl, she was brought here and she was killed here. When the camp administration issued this death certificate, they were issuing death certificate. Can you imagine that in Auschwitz? They didn't write the real reason of her death. They wrote pneumonia. In other cases, they wrote heart attack or whatever. So we know a lot about her because the documents survive.
And we can see that, and we'd read about it, of course, and knew that there was a lot of experimentation done on children and of course some of the adult inmates as well. But you see some of the pictures here of some of the children, of course, that and none of them, of course, survived. It's again, it's very, very overwhelming to see this.
It's
and
very,
you know,
excuse me, I was just going to say it's very sad for me to see it again. I mean, it just kind of takes everything out of you for a while, and you have to recoup.
And this area right here is where Maximilian Kolbe was executed. As many of you know, that he is now a saint, really? Or is he beatified?
No,
He's a
he
saint,
is
right?
a saint.
In the church.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually gave his life exchanged his life for another man. So, and of course, the Nazis gladly, I guess, just went ahead and took him and then executed him. He was held inside this cell block, which is right off to our right, and we're going to go in there in just a moment, and we will see the cell where Maximilian Kolbe was held. And Betty, you know also about there was a flyer that was down and put into the next cell?
It wasn't really right next to him, but it was down around the corner, and it was a flyer that they had captured. His plane crashed, and inside of the cell where he was kept, you found a scratching on the wall of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and also crosses and a tribute to his faith in the Lord. And I was so impressed with that. He did not let this terrible tragedy that was taking everybody affect his faith.
And this is Maximilian Kolbe's cell right here. This is where he was held. And many of you have probably seen the dramatization of him here on Channel 49 on some of the programs that we have. This is actually there's a basement area here in this barracks. And I think, Betty, this is the other cell where the flyer was held. I'm not sure. It's a little dark down here, but and there's not a lot of light, but there's probably enough for us to see, because I think we got a shot here somewhere. Maybe that wasn't the cell. You're probably right. It wasn't right next door. One of the other cells, which is very unusual and very unusual, cruel punishment, which was down at the end of this corridor, is a little area 4x4. Where there's the etching there on the wall, but where I think 4 or 6 men were held. You had to crawl in through a little tiny door. You could barely see it right here. Crawl in under it, and then you stood all night long in this thing. It's a cutaway version that you can see here, but there was not enough room to sit down, to lie down, or anything. And many times, of course,
they were
the
dead.
men died.
The next morning they were dead. Well, can you imagine? No facilities, nothing. You just stood there, and they'd been out in the field working all day, and when they came in, that was their reward.
Well, it's still so hard to realize that man's inhumanity to man can manifest itself in this way, as we see. And as we say, it's still going on, today in various parts of the world. You just think that, we would become civilized enough somewhere along the line to learn that this is just not right. I mean, this is evil. It's wrong. And
but Marv, it's been since the beginning of time, and you read the Old Testament, and this happened.
True.
But it was so long ago, and then they did not know the things that we know today. They didn't have the things that we have today. In those days, it was
still there's
no law,
there's no excuse. I
No,
think,
of
for
course not.
barbarianism.
Auschwitz was liberated by Russians. And of course, Germans Nazis were very much afraid of Russians. So when they could hear the Russians coming, they simply panicked and they escaped from here. But before they escaped, they managed to blow up crematoria and gas chambers. So today on the site of Birkenau camp, there are no chimneys, there are no huge installations, but there are huge piles of ruins. And these ashes were found there. There were 7 different kinds of gas chambers. The first one here in the main camp and 6 others in Birkenau. So in fact Auschwitz to Birkenau, which was situated 6 kilometers from here.
This area, this sort of a courtyard that we just saw, was where they assembled for the roll call in the morning and in the evening, those people that were survivors there, at least that were working in the camp. But you'd also know that there was a great big area there too, and so where the public hangings took place as well. So it's pretty gruesome. I don't know how you could get away from the horror and the gruesomeness of it. I mean, the people that actually were working there, that were surviving on a day-to-day basis, how they could stand all of this horror being with them all the time, at 24 hours a day. I don't know.
I don't either. I guess you become immune to it. You become calloused. It's just, well, obviously that's what happened, because they did manage to go about there as if it were an everyday job that they were doing, a natural event.
I don't know. That'd be hard for me to comprehend.
Well, I think for anybody. It was awful.
I just don't know if you could turn that off. I mean, there's so much of it, the mass killings, on a day-to-day basis.
Even look at the faces of our people. Look at Monsignor there.
Yeah.
Longer time using this part of the underground building as a crematorium, but pretty soon they stopped doing it also. The reason is simple. This crematorium gas chamber was too close to the main camp, to the main offices of the administration of the camp, and even to the building in which the first commandant of Auschwitz, Rudolf Höss, was living. And here he is in this photograph. This is him, right here and here, together with Himmler. Himmler, Reichsführer of SS, the most important SS man. This is Rudolf Höss 4 years later, in 1946. This is the moment of giving him back to Polish justice. He was hiding under the false name, pretending to be just a farmer, in Germany after the war. In 1946 he was recognized, captured, and given back to Poland. This photograph was taken in Warsaw during his trial. Polish National Tribunal was judging him for the atrocities he committed here, and he was sentenced death penalty. It was executed right here. The gallows is the reconstruction of the original one, and it stands in the same place. Rudolf Höss was...
You wonder, several of these people were taken to justice and, of course, were executed, whatever, but you just wonder how many of them did get away. And evidently several did, and some big ones. I don't think that they ever caught Mengele, who was a doctor who did such atrocious things to the inmates.
But if they didn't get it here on Earth, don't you think they're not going to get it when they died? We have got a God as judge.
This step.
This was used as a gas chamber. The entrance that we have just used was, as I said, at the end of the war, used by SS, because they changed the function of this building into air shelter in case of bombing. SS staff would come here and hide, right? when it was used as a gas chamber, the victims were coming from there. There is a little room in which they had to strip before being executed. As you see, there are no dummy showers in the ceilings. It was much more primitive than those new ones opened in Birkenau, which was the real extermination center. Such openings like this one were made in the roof for throwing down cyclone B, so it was dropped immediately on the heads of those people, because 600 were herded here at a time. The opening, this one is reconstructed because the original ones were removed when they changed the function of this building.
You know, I had always wondered how it would feel that when you did set foot in one of these gas chambers like this. And I don't know if you can really describe the feeling when you think of how many people were exterminated, how many people were murdered here in this particular building right here. It really boggles your mind. I mean, it's so hard to comprehend. That's the way that I felt. How about you, Betty?
Oh, sure. But it's very important that we put it on tape to share this with other people. This is part of our history. And this has to be part of the tour so that we have an understanding of our fortunate life that we live here. And we must remember these atrocities and pray for these people that perished in this terrible time of their lives. And if you watch our people, they were very, very emotional about this too. It hit all of us really, really hard. However, it didn't last. I mean, your life does go on afterwards.
Oh yes,
So,
no, it does.
yeah.
But I mean, I should say it's a good thing that it does make a lasting impression upon you. I mean, just looking at the pictures again, it sort of brings that all back. And
Too bad it's so dark, but of course there wasn't any light there. We did with what we could do with, and
no, and
I
thank
think
goodness the ovens were not going.
that's right. You did a fine job with
There
this, Marv, under the circumstances. The sound wasn't always so great because our guide didn't care to have the camera near her, so we used the little tape recorder to get as much from her as we
And that
could.
doesn't always work that
and
well.
no,
either.
as you listen, you hear these discrepancies, and that's why.
Well, unfortunately, when you're trying to do a television show where you're following a tour, you got to take pot luck. So, what you see is what you get, and that's just about the way that it is. Anyway, we wanted to share all of these pictures with you. It's not necessarily the joyous part of the trip, but we're going to, of course, move on from Auschwitz as we move through the rest of Poland, which, again, as Betty and I have both said, we were so impressed with the Polish countryside and the Polish people and all of the wonderful things that we did experience. But this is one thing that we needed to experience because this was actual history. This had really happened, and it was good for us, I think, to be here and to have this experience. And I would really advise anyone that is going into Eastern Europe, if you don't visit Auschwitz, there are, of course, other concentration camps that are still set up as museums, and you might want to visit one of those.
The Polish name for the city is Kraków, in English, Krakow. So, and the name of our town is connected with the first ruler. The name of our town is connected with the first ruler of this part of Poland. His name was Krak, and he, legend said that he lived in the 7th century, and he killed a huge monster who lived in Krakow, the dragon. And maybe later, if you like, I will show a small statue to the dragon. And the dragon lived at the foot of the Wawel hill. Wawel, there's a hill which is in front of your hotel. There's a natural hill, and on the Wawel we have two important buildings, and the castle and the royal cathedral. The castle, which was the royal residence, and this castle I want to show. Now there is a museum. For a long time, Krakow was the main city in Poland, and it was a royal residence. Our kings lived on the Wawel hill, which is in front of your hotel. And Wawel, there's a natural hill, and in Old Polish language, Wawel, it means dry place, dry place. And the hill was dry, everything below was wet, because at the foot of the Wawel hill we have the main river of Poland, Wisła or Vistula, and the same which is in Warsaw. right.
I love the little children. Yeah. Yesterday when I came out, everybody was just they had the little boy and that thing. Did you sing about it? It was so cute.
So, and we say that Krakow is a lucky place, a lucky town, under special protection of our God, because it was several invaded but never damaged. The first invasion it was in the 13th century. The Tatars invaded Krakow. They plundered Krakow, and then in the 17th century, the Swedish army, they occupied all Polish cities. And during the second World War, Krakow was under Nazi occupation, but it was not bombed like, for example, Warsaw. Just as we say that Krakow is a lucky place, a lucky town. So, and at first, I want to show you this place, which is now on the street, which is on our left side, the Wawel, with the castle and the Royal Church, 3 towers together, green in color. There's a Royal Church, and with the dragon. The dragon lived at the foot of the Wawel hill in a small cave, and the dragon liked to eat beautiful girls, sometimes women too. Then heads. At the last came to our town very brave shoemaker, now the main river of Poland, Wisła. At last came to our town very brave shoemaker, Krak his name was, and he killed the dragon, and later he became the first ruler of this part of Poland. And then Krak lived on the Wawel hill, which is still on our left side. So, and the oldest part of Krakow is on our left side. So, and this street is so wide because till the 19th century here was a Vistula river, old part of Vistula river. It was moved from here just about this wide street, and then on the right, the tower on the left side is a part of medieval fortification.
Well, I was really in for a big surprise when we arrived in Krakow. I thought that this was a beautiful, beautiful city, and I'd forgotten too that, as she had mentioned once before, and they mentioned also in Warsaw too, that this was at one time the capital of Poland. And a lot of the people, of course, in Krakow think that that's when Poland was really at its height of,
glory.
Glory, yeah, that's a good word, I guess, for it. So, but anyway, we are on our way on our city tour today, and we are going to go up to the castle, and it's a beautiful, beautiful area. This whole area around here, of course, is very, very nice, and we're going to continue this, of course, next week as we get into more of the city tour. But right now, we're going to get off the bus and climb up the hill so that we can visit the castle up there. And she is a very good guide. She gave us some very, very wonderful information. And once we get up on top, we'll be able to
understand
really
her better.
Yeah, right. Hopefully we get a little closer to her. Right. Well, that's just about all the time that we have. Betty, if people are interested in trips coming up, yeah, they should give you a call at
488-7443.
We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.